evening. There's an echo in here. Welcome to Conspiracy Cafe. I'm your host, George Freund. We're always with you now. We're with you to the end, and we keep pushing the end back just a few meters at a time, because somebody's got to do it. And a lot of the other people fall very, very short in the program. Although we have to give some kudos, of course, to that channel for hosting this show, to the people who send in money to help this show. It's probably the only hope we have, as we'll find out as we get into some of the meat and potatoes. If you're trusting any type of corporate media, you're on a fool's errand. That's why Conspiracy Cafe here in the heart of downtown Toronto on that channel is the best chance we have. Of course, we do have the odd person stepping up to the plate from time to time. One odd person was Mick Jagger before his concert. Not that this probably got around much in the United States, but in Britain, they'd have no trouble reporting some things in the United States. So he starts his concert with, "I don't think Obama is here tonight, but I'm sure he's listening in." And that's what we have to do with these devils, is grab them by the ears and shake them a little bit and try to bring them around to some semblance of sanity, some idea to be loyal to what we've had, instead of changing it all asunder. This is the front page of the Toronto Globe and Mail. We had a big court decision in the United States where the Supreme Court upheld gay rights in the form of marriage, overturning a California law. And that's all well and said and done, or whatever. Equal rights are equal rights, painful for some people, different for other people. But one of the things that's just an anathema of the situation is the flag. You know, that's Old Glory. You'd almost think there was a conspiracy involved to defeat nationalism and destroy the nation state using a popular agenda. Because in time, the stars on that flag will mean nothing, just as the maple leaf on the flag we have here in Canada for Pride Weekend may one day be replaced with the rainbow flag. One planet, uber alles. Can happen very, very quickly with mind control. It's so subtle. See, they give you what you want. It's the candy. Who's going to reject the candy, man? You can have all the candy you want for anything you want, except certain things. Can't have gun candy, because we're going to kill you in the end and might slow us down some. So people don't see that part. You're stuck in that dimensional rut where a higher level plays you as a puppet, knocks you around a little bit in the dark. You don't even know what hit you because you're getting all the candy you want. I was in a bit of a discussion with a guy I chum around with a lot, and he was quite happy about, you know, this settlement because he's gay and wonderful. And then he was a hardcore Democrat, so, you know, he's leaning on me about this big debate a Democratic senator, congresswoman, whatever, in the state of Texas was holding up a debate on abortion because they wanted to do something about the abortion laws. Well, obviously, if you know me, you know I'm not for abortion. Not that fond of it at all. But it's part of the, you know, you can have all the candy you want agenda, because we don't have to feed the candy that's in the womb because they don't vote. And we've made decisions for the New World Order agenda. And a lot of people don't see the big picture, so they don't understand how we're used and manipulated in this field. But I just told them quite clearly that, you know, if you believe in abortion, you should practice what you preach. I believe in the Second Amendment, so it doesn't bother me to own a firearm or shoot one from time to time or be responsible for it or to go hunting with it, because I practice what I preach. So here's a knife, you go cut out a couple of babies out of a womb. You gonna do it? I doubt it. Then all of a sudden it's not going to seem like such a big thing anymore when you got the blood on your own hands and you got to see what you're doing. It's one thing to talk about it and let somebody else do it and look at the nobility of it all. But when you got to cut out the pieces yourself, God's going to tell you that that's a human being because the blood's on your hands. There are some people that enjoy that because they're just catatonic killers. But they're in a minority, I'm quite sure. Sure, if I had to kill a lot of the animals in my possession or something like that, if I had a farm, well, maybe I'd probably be a little quicker to lean a lot more towards salads. because you kind of get attached to the things. It might be hard to distance yourself. Well, at least we can be honest about that. The whole purpose of the New World Order is to kind of get the population down by any means possible. And they bring on a very subtle mind control wave. We don't want procreating couples. Well, that's better than taking them on the train to Auschwitz, killing everybody. So we push that. And the agenda changes and everybody gets comfortable with it. And we can't have the old people hanging around, so we have to push euthanasia. And we got too many young ones coming around, so we bring in abortion. But the karma wave always exists. So I just marveled, talking to women's rights activists to say, this abortion is a wonderful thing. Where it's working in China and India is they're killing all the girl children and leaving the boys behind. You're going to be an extreme minority in very short order, about a generation. What are you going to do then? You won't have any political power. And as the different religions get involved, well, we have the Muslims not aborting, and the happy pagans or Christians maybe not procreating as much as they used to. So Sharia law is going to be a reality probably within a generation too in the democratic countries as the majority takes over. Then all these wonderful so-called rights and issues that we had are no longer going to be popular or vogue and may actually be a blasphemy. But we have to thank the people that brought us all these things because they recorded everything with the National Security Agency, and the new Islamic Republic of the United States or wherever else can have access to these records or files and start the beheading because we allowed them to have all this information for the future. And we weren't worried at all what was going to happen. There's an old saying I have from long times ago: if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. That's what they tell us. And the government must have lots to hide because they're always fearful of us looking at anything about the past in their business dealings. So there was another old saying: what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But my add to that is, when you have something to fear, when that day comes, which isn't very long away, when you have something to fear, you'll have no place to hide. That's the counter argument. It's easy to give all your security to the police state and let them take over. We have no idea where that ship of state will steer down the road. Just because it's here today doesn't mean it's going to be parked or docked here 10 years from now or 20 years from now. The ship may arm itself, turn around, and come back firing at the position we take today, just like we would go back in time and do the same thing. It wasn't that long ago. That's the abortion argument I like to use. Maybe it was a long time ago when we start, that, you should be burned at the stake for heresy. And women who thought that they were outside of a certain mold were witches, eh? And they weren't people as defined by law. That only came out, like around the World War I era with suffragettes and the real women's rights movements. They weren't people. So we could have genocided them, really, if you're not people. And then we could own black people in the 1860s. Why? Because the Supreme Court said they weren't people. And the Supreme Court said Jews weren't people. And the Supreme Court says a fetus isn't a person. We're always wrong. And we never get it right. That's why you should do your own killing. So at least you get the blood on your hands to convict yourself that you know what you've done. I guess that's why I'm not a good liberal or a Democrat. Couldn't be a good Republican or conservative either, because they're all part of the same melange to trick us on a set stage of deception. I don't fall for the left-right paradigm anymore. It means nothing to me. So when you hear one go about the other railing, it means nothing to me because they're both wrong. 90% of all these Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives should probably be shot for treason, and the other 10% locked up for life if they're turning state's evidence. Because they're all treasonous against us, we the people, to bring in something to destroy our nations and turn us all upside down. Our sort of premier here in Ontario, elected by her caucus to cover up the crimes of the previous guy, Dalton McGuilty, should say McGuilty, as opposed to McGinty, because he is guilty. She's in the news today because she wants to bring in new taxes, roughly just short of $500 per household to fund public transit. Now, what I fail to understand is how all these illuminated, brilliant people who have all the benefits of an education that teaches you what to think all have the same answer to all the problems. Tax us all to death. Karl Marx, you lived well. And bring in this transit tax. Tax is like bloodletting, if we can go back in time and understand that. There was a time we thought, well, if we take enough blood out of the body, you're going to get better. That's what taxation is. It's bloodletting. And for every dollar you take out of the economy in tax, it's $1 less that we can spend to build up the economy. So you can tax a little bit, and we'll never feel it. It won't have any effect. But as it accumulates and accumulates and accumulates and accumulates and accumulates and accumulates, pretty soon we get to the point of no return where we don't generate enough revenue to pay these taxes, and the system implodes. Because we've taken away the tax base with every tax we come up with. And that's the stupidity of it all. So she can bring in this tax and think she's going to get this revenue, but indirectly, because she's collapsing the economy at the same time, that's going to mean there's going to be people who lose jobs over this, companies that go bankrupt, that become part of the burden they have to carry. So you may tax us to close to $500 and then find you might have to pay $1,000 for all the new debt burdens you take on in unemployment insurance and destruction and implosion of what would have been tax-paying enterprises collapse. So you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Now, to create money, or as I wrote a previous Minister of Finance here in the province of Ontario, if Ontario could get 25% of their funding from the Bank of Canada, which was allowed in the Bank Act, I know they changed it once and I don't know if it's still there, tax, like interest-free. So it's like a loan from mom and dad. 25% of your operating budget. Like, no offense. But then you could pay for public transit with no interest. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But there's also another answer. The cruel illusion, the difficulties of life. Damn bastards stole $585 million of our money. That's why McGuilty's McGuilty. Liberal Party, pay it back. Give us our money back. You stole it. You screwed up. Pay it back. You only need 585 liberal millionaires to pay it back. That would be a good shot in the arm for the transit, if you really believed in transit and fairness. But to take all this money, lose it, misspend it, screw it all up, and then have everything to fear because you hid all the documents or destroyed them, is a slap in the face. But we must like getting slapped in the face because we let these people do it all the time. So Obama now has to come up with a new program because he's all worn out. Goes back to his old, circus song and dance stuff. Global warming, arms control. You think he was like, just got out of high school or something yesterday. All the old songs come back. He even goes to Berlin to try to duplicate Kennedy's great visit back in the Cold War. But he had a different saying now. Instead of Ich bin ein Berliner, it's Ich bin ein Nazi, because I spy on you. I kill people all the time. And there's nothing you can do about it. Well, I guess there is a few things you could do about it. You could find out what the hell's really going on. We like to do that. I was mucking around. We have the video posted on our website, conspiracy-cafe-org.net.com. And we even showed the film, of this WMD drill in LA by the LAPD for the Department of Homeland Security, because they were having an anniversary or something like that of the 2013 National Homeland Security Conference, and it was on Figueroa Street between 4th and 5th Street. And this was in the film, this helicopter passing over this bridge. There's a close-up when you watch the film again. It's Route 110, so basically 11. So you got a 9 and 11 in the address of the film, but it's also between 4th and 5th Street. That adds up to 9. Route 110, 911. So they're telling us in many, 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 many fields now that this is going to happen. Then I was looking at a map, because I'm not that familiar with LA, you know, just to say, okay, 4th and 5th Street, you know, that's all cool, that's around here, and then there's the bridge. They were going under the bridge or something, that's where the sign was. And then I'm looking on the other side, right? You know what the street is right there on the other side? Boylston. The same name of the street they blew up in Boston. Like, what are the odds? When they had the Boston bombing, of course, they blew everybody up because they had Sandy Hook signs all over the place. So it's like they leave a trail of cookie crumbs from one thing to the other. Another guy was, you know, he's videoed on the thing. I didn't get it out. I forgot to play it live for you. Enough of you have seen it. The man arrested on the plane coming from Hong Kong to Newark, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey. Didn't they launch a terror attack from there on 9/11? So the guy's on flight 116, play on 9/11. There's 238 passengers on the plane. Once you play your numerology, you come up with 13. So what are they telling us? 9/11, 2013? Something's going to happen. So they carry this guy away in a straitjacket. He's yelling and screaming about they're going to kill NSA people, poison them, CIA people, people in covert operations. Well, we did break the codes, come up with dates, come up with some places, start speculating very, very clearly that some of these things were going to happen. There's no mistake. There's ignorance, but no mistake. Holy smokes, they've already taken one of my films off the website. Isn't that awful? Don't you hate when that happens? I'll have to try to find a link, but you know, we put up The Sorcerer for you. I had a lot of trouble getting that posted, so if you were smart enough to get in there early and see it, you got to see it, but they've pulled it down already. It's a masterpiece. Boris Karloff. Yeah, she's gone. Well, we have the, couldn't even add anything to it when it was there. That was the big thing. But The Sorcerer's 1967 mind control flick on how the mad scientist grabs some young people, brainwashes them according to their abilities in 1967. You know, and the next year they shot this guy. The president's brother, Robert, running for president. And then this chick, Patty Hearst. MK Ultra mind control specialist being seduced into the Symbionese Liberation Army. And it was all put in this film. How we can hypnotize you and turn you into something. They work fast. And then, of course, we had our drill. We started to say, hey, something's going down, man. We followed the Google Doodle, took us to Wilbur, Washington, took us to Spokane. Then, of course, they had a drill there at the airport. They did it on the 20th instead of the 22nd because they couldn't do their sacrifice, I guess, for Solstice Day. But that's one of the pictures of the drill, the videos there. We were bang on the money. Bang on the money. Same weekend, they also had the American Radio Relay League Field Day for the zombie apocalypse. 1,600 groups of amateur radio people in the United States and Canada all hooked up because just in case the big one's coming down, we're ready. Well, we're ready too, because we follow the twilight language to source. It's something that exists in a level higher than they are. So we look down on them and we see things that are revealed and released that they don't want revealed or released. There's nothing they can do to stop us because we're looking down. So it's like I was explaining to a lot of people about how the fourth dimension works. We can't see it, we can't understand it, we don't even know what's in it. It's Australian rules, no rules. It's out of our ability to sense. But what we can do is we can see the shadow of a fourth dimension on us, in our playing field, and pick up little bits and pieces, whether it be through numbers, letters, images. Because if the universe is a hologram, all the pieces for the whole are in the parts. And as we view different parts, we can see what should not be seen. We can see the shadow world. A long time ago, 2,400 years ago, Plato postulated the cave. In the cave, prisoners were held. And their only reality could be the shadows that were portrayed on the wall, shadows from the fire in the cave. So the only reality that these prisoners had were the shadows, and whatever they were made to be was reality. Nothing's changed. Now we have television, movies, books, literature, teaching, all sorts of mind control to give us the shadows. And that's all we can see. And we're allowed to move around in the shadow world, to think, understand it in the way that we're allowed. We just can't peek outside. Once we start to peek outside into the third dimension, the secret societies that control us, manipulate us, well, then they'll slap us down good and hard, call us names, imprison us, beat us up, whatever. We're not allowed to think outside of the box. Plato's cave. 2,400 years, baby, we've been in that cave. And they don't want to let us out. So they teach us a lie. One lie was on the radio when I was driving into work. The Wright brothers weren't the first ones to fly. There was a German guy who flew 2 years before. But we learn our history the way the mind control specialist teaches us. Amazing. And even though, even when I was in school, they teach us, well, Christopher Columbus got to America first. And then, another lesson, I'm learning that the Vikings were in Newfoundland and the east coast of Canada in the year 1100. Well, that's like, almost 400 years before Christopher Columbus got here. So how does Christopher Columbus get to be the first guy who gets here? So they can't even lie well. They're getting better at it, though. Fox reporters fired for telling the truth. Fools. Fox News reporters Steve Wilson, Jane Acker, told the truth about Posilac, Monsanto Corporation's bovine growth hormone they put in milk, causes cancer. So if you drink regular milk, there's a 90% chance you're getting this chemical. And I know so many people that are getting cancer, they're not like dropping like flies. I always pray they survive. They're getting quite sick. So they sued for wrongful dismissal. And the judge dismissed their case. Because the news is reality TV. They are under no obligation to report the truth. Getting the picture? They are under no obligation, according to the courts, to report the truth. It is an illusion on the cave wall that you see the man or the woman on the news that they're telling you the truth. They're massaging your brain. It's infotainment. Then one of the other little sidebars to this article is, sometimes in this milk there's infection discharge, popularly known as pus, that comes into the milk. So it's not exactly the best thing in the world for you if you have that in there. So it always reminds me of an old commercial where, a guy pulls up in his exotic limousine to another car, and there was a very popular mustard called Grey Poupon for the really rich people. And I guess now instead of the Grey Poupon, you stop and, can I have the pus? The Posilac, bovine growth hormone. It's just shocking, really. But what can we do? Oh yeah, there's a very simple solution. We can change the channel. So, you see, there's only certain kinds of news that are important. So if we have a school shooting, It's got to be because you're rich, you come from an industrialized country, you're white, and you get gunned down in a horrible way. If that happens anywhere else in the world, unless it's a white industrialized country that's rich, that hates guns and wants to ban them so they can kill us all later down the road, it's never news much. So that's why I was just wondering, like they had this school shooting here in Nigeria. These are some of the boys in the band here, hardy bunch of young fellas. They're coming at you. There's a good reason to have the Second Amendment. Nigerian militants killed school children in Maiduguri. So they go in there, well, I guess I can just leave it on the picture, but they go in there and they just wipe out 9 school children. It was the second targeted attack. 5 students were killed sitting there for their exams, 4 more were killed as they were entering the school. And it was the second shooting. 13 people, including students and teachers, were killed previously on the Sunday before. So 2 school shootings in Africa. And it just doesn't matter, because they already banned guns in Africa. That happened in the 60s. So there's no political spin to gain. So you can kill people in schools till the cows come home. They don't care, as long as they got their pus. It's absolutely sickening and degenerate. Big Brother alert. I guess we'll just do this one. We'll play it on the video for the TV camera monitoring. Only one show that I know of brought this up from the first time. You got to go back on my blog, a little bit there to find. As soon as I heard the DVR players are using more electricity than a fridge or an air conditioner, I know right away them puppies is running 24/7 taking pictures of your bare ass, baby. That's just common sense. You put your hand on a hot stove, it burns. You don't have to wait for some kind of report from a university or a think tank. It burns, get it off. There's only one man standing up to get it off. Democrat Representative Michael Capuano introduced a bill, the We Are Watching You Act, so that when they turn this stuff on, the TV screen should flash to say, we're watching your bare ass. We went further into this and recommended to a lot of people that you don't need the We Are Watching You Act. You know they're watching you. Get rid of the cable. Don't get a DVR box. Don't get a camera with a camera, or a TV with a camera inside. You don't need it. I knew right away as soon as you started buying laptops, it's included with a camera. They're watching your bare ass. They got the speakers for the sound. Old saying your parents used to tell you, probably when you were small, don't take candy from strangers. When you grow up, you think, well, I'm a grown-up. Now I can take all the candy I want. And you don't realize you're walking into a trap. You can just take a Post-it note, fold it over the camera or a piece of paper, and then they can't see your bare ass. They can just listen to it sing. Article from Britain. Are peeping Toms going through your computer? Yes, they are. The sweet young lady here had some kind of troll getting into her computer. She was watching a DVD while she's taking a bath, and somebody's looking at her bare ass. Well, the government can do that all the time. See, where these peeping Toms are fools, instead of downloading some kind of program, spy software to get into unsuspecting people's computers, they call them rats. And the rats, when they get into your computer, take over you and call you slaves because they control your computer and can look at your bare ass anytime. Well, if you join the NSA or something like that, GCHQ in Britain, then you can look at your bare ass anytime for the government. So one of the things that pops out of this, the perpetrator who did this follows your daily routines, get the emails of your friends and families, can send them messages. And they play games like that, mind games with your employer, your family, etc., etc. And this is old stuff. It's been around for a good 7 years or something like that. And then I remember the death of Chief Constable Todd from Manchester, and somebody sending messages to say he's depressed and he's killing himself, but the people who see him real in the flesh say, hey, everything's fine, he's a happy guy, he's just going in the woods for a walk. But he never came back from. So if some idiot hacker can do this, why can't the big brains in the intelligence agencies do that? Well, of course they can. Not a problem. Not a problem. Facebook admits releasing accidentally all the personal information of 6 million of its users over a year-long data breach. So it's kind of like they're seeding the field to know that, well, ultimately it's going to come out that we're spying on everybody through the intelligence agencies and the government. So if anything ever happened, we can always say, well, that was our mistake. We accidentally released this information, and that's how it got out. That's where it went. You know, we're stupid. We made a mistake. Oops. Well, we got to catch on. The world moves at the speed of the predator, not the prey. And there's all kinds of prey, all kinds of predators. We had a big flood in Calgary. Actually, I guess I should use my startup statement, you know, as I posted for the meeting for tonight's show. Well, that's okay. You all probably remember it. You know, the people in Calgary are taking a bath. If the Prime Minister was Polish, he'd have been killed in a crash. So our Prime Minister goes to the G8 and he just takes Putin's head and he rubs salt in it. Okay, there we go. Rubs salt in his eyes, kicks him in the shins, calls him all kinds of names. Probably had some real heated arguments in the back room over whether they're going to arm these Syrian rebels. And then the man who is the king of the second dimension, because he works for the third, the secret societies, he's not really part of the secret societies. They even walled him out at the G8. When it came for the killing meetings, Canada wasn't involved in the conference calls. It was the other G8 members, except Russia. It was G7 plus 1, but really it was G6 plus 1 plus 1, because Harper was walled out. Because he doesn't believe in arming the rebels. And I agree with him. So he comes back home. The Conservatives are supposed to have their convention this weekend in Calgary, Mudslide City. So that's where I like this little blog, warning. Bloop, 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 bloop. This is Vladimir Putin. You don't rub salt in his eyes. So our Prime Minister is knowledgeable. He knows nothing about weather weapons, probably. Probably none of his staff know anything about weather weapons. So Calgary is built on a floodplain. I was talking to an old soldier who was a soldier before I was born. We were looking at maps of the area. And they're going, you know, floodplain. I don't know where the scientist was who was telling them all that way back then, but floodplain. Big storm comes up. The best link to describe this is called Russian woodpecker. And you end up with something like this. A graph from the weather people. There's the water rising, and then you get to a point where straight up. That's a rather unusual anomaly. But they skipped school when Stanford University was probably putting out something like this: ELF, VLF, wave generation and continuous high frequency heating of the lower ionosphere. And you know how they even got a little diagram on how to steal their storms. You can go in a circle, you can do lines, you can do sawtooth. They turn on the old HARP machine here. They even have over the horizon radar, so you can sit in Moscow and push a button and dump a little water on people. The G8 guys all waving, a little Twilight language there. Stevie Baby realizing, I got screwed. And Mr. Putin has his own vodka, Putinka, from Russia with love, to toast the conservative convention. Now, if he was Polish, this guy'd be dead in a crash. And even if he survived, they send out the little hit team, pop, 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 blow you away. It's what they did to the Polish Politburo. I'd even forgotten, I posted a good video on that in the video section. And while I was cleaning up things, because pictures disappear and links go cold and all that sort of thing, I watched it. And you just see how they wiped them all out. Not even a hesitation. The guy's even got the videos we showed on this show of the hit team going in, the guy who hears the gunshots, who films it, the man yelling at him in Belarusian to get the hell out of there. They killed that videographer several days later in a hospital in the Ukraine. So Project Woodpecker, electron cyclotron resonance heating method, used to alter the Earth's magnetic field to monitor weather, trigger earthquakes and volcanoes, spread viruses, create the phenomena known as the electromagnetic pulse, modify behavior, control among the populace. Helps you get those riots going in certain places when it's regime change time. Let me tell you, high frequency active auroral research program, you're all aware of that, HAARP, tied to the GWEN ground wave emergency network. There's a grid system all over the United States, spaced antennas every 200 miles or so. In the original research done by Nikola Tesla, this has been expanded on by Soviet scientists and Bernard J. Eastland of the Atlantic Richfield Oil Company. Patents were given, originally to a company called APTI Incorporated, then sold out to E-Systems under the control of the CIA. Then E-Systems was sold to the still larger Raytheon Corporation. Soviet Union began using this weapon around 1971. On July 4th, 1976, powerful electromagnetic transmissions were heard by ham radio operators all over the world, sounding like a woodpecker, and that's where it got the name. On June 18th, 1977, the US government officially became partners with the Russians in this program. Lawrence Livermore Laboratories in Livermore, California are the main research facility for this. On January 10th, 1985, a patent number 4686605, method and apparatus for altering a region in the Earth's atmosphere, ionosphere, and/or magnetosphere. The patent was approved on August 11th, 1987. It describes the electron cyclotron resonance heating. I guess that's not a conspiracy theory. In 1993, researchers announced they discovered a never-before-seen network of rivers that flow above the Earth's surface in vapor form. The volume of water is the same as the Amazon River. And at every given time, at least a few of them are operating in each of the hemispheres. The longest can run for about 4,800 miles, be 150 miles wide. The largest being 500 miles wide and a mile deep. 364 million pounds of vapor flowing past a given spot, one spot, every second. No more than 1.9 miles above the Earth's surface. So they track these things, and by activating through the natural frequency of vibration, they can dump it on your head. We won't get into the extreme technical aspects of it because we don't have the time. The temperature within the target radiation belt can be raised by hundreds of degrees, sufficient to cause the air to glow like the aurora borealis, or to create sonic booms. The kinetic energy of the moving particles has the same order of magnitude as the total kinetic energy of the stratospheric winds known to exist. Creation of high and/or low pressure weather cells after the path of the Earth's jet streams. By using multiple transmitters, weather cells can be made to move or hover over selective locations, causing torrential, damaging moisture to occur in some areas. Devastating droughts can be made to occur in other areas. Electromagnetic energy is suddenly released. A low pressure cell with its rising plume of air can be made to collapse. The weathermen may call some of these things a microburst. Referred bombardment of a target radiation belt is extremely powerful. The negatively charged electrons and positively charged protons can be forcibly made to separate, causing an electromagnetic pulse to occur. similar to lightning. Can also be used to knock out electrical power over a large area. That's some woodpecker. Well, our wooden-headed prime minister is too smart to know about things like that. The generals we have in charge of the military are too smart to know about that. They probably never read that American Air Force report, Owning the Weather by 2025. What a shame. And then you end up in like up to your next to it. This is our summer solstice Google Doodle we did after the last show. The wave coming by. I don't think that was a popular one in Calgary or in India as the big floods came by as well. But we looked at this more like a wanted poster of the people behind the Google Doodle. We see maybe this guy on the end being Zuckerman, Paul Allen, the owner of the yacht Octopus and the little submarine there in the bottom, being the guy with the scuba gear. And then you wonder about the other two turkeys. So we were thinking maybe Eric Schmidt or Bill Gates, but they have glasses. But then two other big Google Doodle guys don't. So maybe Sergey Brin and Larry Page are the culprits. Then the one with the longer hair seems of slightly smaller stature. We pegged that as maybe being, the Peppermint Patty, the female. We only had one that we really thought for that one. This mad scientist here. The Queen of DARPA, Regina E. Dugan, on the cover of Prism magazine. She's into the code. She writes them on her hands. She is the code mistress. But we're Canadian up here. That's our flag. Doesn't have any rainbows on it. Sorry, we leave that to the weather modification specialist. This is the good old-fashioned maple leaf with the red and white. Our national anthem is, "We stand on guard for thee." Somebody's got to do it. So you figure that, you teach you that in your national anthem, and nobody does it, right? So the whole reason they put it there is because if you're sleeping, somebody can take a picture of your bare ass. Amazing. So now we have another Google Doodle dropped on us. Just cleaning up the basement, painting, working hard. I figure, okay, I'll take a little break, and there you go. Oh no, not another one. But this is a big one. That's just what I need right now. But you got to work on them because they could be important. So we did. Anthony Gotti, Google Doodle. And they even give us a little credit in here. They mention in his works the fourth dimension. So that was the first thing that attracted my attention, because that's all we've been talking about lately. So he was termed God's architect by the church. He had an ability that's a bit different in architecture. But we understand the different levels, the second level of the mass of humanity in Plato's cave, the third dimension of secret societies, and now the fourth, whatever it may be, that can reflect upon us. And this is reflected in these images. I was very, very lucky that I found the key, which is something you usually don't get with these codes. But it's his 161st birthday anniversary, which is, of course, he liked to put things upside down too, so you can rotate them. And then, of course, the component numbers for 9/11 are in there again, another main clue that they're going to do something. This is a church that's unfinished. It's part of the works of Gotti. It's supposed to be finished around 2026. As we understand the NASA war documentary, we're supposed to be finished around 2025. So looking up at this, we're seeing the shadow of the fourth dimension in 3 dimensions. The tesseract is an example. The keystone is the hole in the top as opposed to the brick at the bottom. So Marvel Designs, this was, man, thought all these things up in his head. He must have been brilliant. but this church, the Sagrada Familia, has a hyperboloid vault, and that's what you're looking at in a way. The hyperboloid comes up in many things. This is the common conical one. We use this in our blog about the coming economic collapse, because once you enter in the middle, you go through, you have no idea you've left into this other new dimension, the way the economy is going to crash and turn into something else. We have Hawkins' math here, outlining the mathematical ideas of the fourth dimension. Gotti was also termed Dante of architecture as well, and of course that's Dante's Inferno. We did a hell of a blog on that, no pun intended, and that gets into a lot of detail. Trouble with the live links, because as I was writing this, you know, you're really getting close to the wooden stake in the heart, because my computer gets taken over and they're not looking at my bare ass, they're just jumbling everything up and screwing everything up, so I couldn't insert links. Things started disappearing, so I had to take some countermeasures to save my work until it could get posted. But this tells us much. We free ourselves from a lot of the programming of the cave by understanding these types of works and seeing into them. I went on a little bit about the NSA scandal, the spying and such like that, mainly because in the day I was working on this, I heard the Power Hour, heard their guest, a former American Army intelligence officer, talking about the spying. And I always wonder to myself, why does everybody who gets a radio show or exposure to the public, why are they all intelligence officers? Why can't, you know, somebody drive a cab or be a farmer? Anything. Why do they all got to be spies? So then you got to really wonder, like, why is this guy a spy coming on the radio to talk about the spying? There's a philosophy in the news, in the cave, the infotainment. It's called the expert and the man in the suit. That's how they make those images on the wall. So the man in the suit, the news presenter, the guy who gets big money, not me, comes out, says something, and then they bring on the expert to verify everything for you. And then you're hook, line, and sinker, you fall in with it. But they plant seeds on you. It's advanced psychological warfare. And this guy was really good, very simple, very subtle, with a very deep barb planted in you. So he gets into the Cold War era when he was in the military, and you know, all the militaries are spying on everybody. No big deal. And he starts talking about the Arab-Israeli war and the fact that we were spying on the Israelis. So we knew they shot first, and that resulted in the USS Liberty incident. So even though the bulk of people would be listening to alternative media of that format, like Genesis, would be against this spying, this planting of the buzzword USS Liberty plants a seed in your mind to allow you to think it's okay, because they got the good fruit while they were collecting for the basket. And it makes you tolerate it. But it's a very deep psychological warfare. Actually, as I wrote it, I put it was psychological warfare 401, and then as I'm breaking the code and I get the Condé Nast magazine article where they gave the keys to the code, 401 is in it. So I even read the language before I even found it. Very, very funny. And he gets into the big history of Turkey. Great, big involvement. You're going for a university thesis? That's what you need to know. Turkey's very simple. They're trying to get into the EU. Maybe some people don't like it and they protest in the street. Maybe we're getting the color revolution like in a lot of other countries. And Turkey got mad. So Turkey stopped the arms shipments to go to the Syrian rebels. And we're really up the creek. There's no other way to really get them there easily. Could have said that in 30 seconds. But we had to plant the seed. So I really worry about a lot of other media and what they give you. So you get your Monsanto bovine growth hormones in a lot of the words, images, and ideas you pick up. I don't do that. I don't bring in the expert. I wear a suit because I have to at work. But I'm not there to play mind control games with you. I just lay the cards on the table face up, tell you the risks and dangers, you pick and choose what you want, and you leave. If you're really nice, you leave a little money at the door, at the donate box. So the joy, absolute joy of getting the key, this is the key to the code. Condé Nast puts up all the images, because I'm not that familiar with architecture, of all the places, with their street addresses. So basically, everything's in Barcelona. The G in Google is for Güell, an architectural park in El Carmel. It has a serpentine terrace. Carmel is a major biblical reference point to events with Elijah and the prophets of Baal. They were at odds. Fire fell on Elijah's sacrifice. Fire may fall from the sky there. A religious order called the Carmelites was established in this Güell. Is located, this property, at Carrer Dolat number 5. O is for the corner of Passag de Gracia and Provença is Casa Mila, the quarry. It is located in Provença 261265. That gives us a 9 and a 13. So what if we have a date here already? 5, 9, 13. The location is Barcelona times 6. The second O is Gandhi's unfinished work, Sagrada Familia. Just like the global government is unfinished in the Cyborg project. Anticipated completion is 2026. The NASA completion date for the war on us, 2025. Gaudi lies buried in a crypt there. The location is Mallorca 401. Is there a reference to the 401k of investments in the United States for retirement? G is for the Casa Mila stone chimneys, an army of gargoyles that can't be seen. There are 28. Like the fourth dimension, it can't be seen. Their shadows can be seen, though they are read in the twilight language. And then as I'm looking, where's my 28? Start researching Spain, what's going on? After about 20 minutes, I find a place. There's a university that's holding one of those post-terrorist programs in October with a whole lot of people in a list. And I start counting them. Don't tell me there's 28. There's 28. Might not be the same 28, but somebody's working in the shadows. There's 28. The L is for the reptilian-shaped chimney, many shades, at the Palau Güell. It is a dark stone. It is twisted. Located at Carrer Nou de la Rambla 3 to 5. David Icke comes in a lot with the reptilian DNA. Is that the meat and potatoes of that? E is just another of the chimneys at the Casa Mila. It was the model of Darth Vader and Sam the Eagle. Of course, we know Darth Vader was the dark side. Sam the Eagle tells us the U.S. is behind this. In summation, there is an event horizon in September in Barcelona. There could be up to 28 people involved working in the shadows to complete the 2026 plan. And this was a project that Gaudi worked on, the martyrs of Nagasaki. There were 26 Christians crucified. He also worked on something for Munich as well, for the Munich Olympic Stadium. Not directly, but his work influenced the people who put it together. The site of the Munich massacre. Some more bad karma. He worked in a light harmony of 45 degrees, 9, with a scale model of 1 to 10, 11. So we have another 9, 11. He was a utopianist, so that tells us he's pretty much in league with this one world order type of thing. He thought the Gothic style of architecture was defective. Illuminists feel the same about the structure of society and the human race. They plan to destroy both from the shadows of their creation. Gaudi's creations are UN World Heritage Sites. The new global society will be UN. Gaudi did not fight in the Third Carlist War. Maybe we won't fight the Third Global War. His face was used in a portrait of Saint Philip Neri. He is the hidden face of change, like a double. Gaudi was ruined in a severe economic crisis as well. There was disease outbreaks, cholera and TB. He was arrested and beaten by the police for his political beliefs on September 11th, 1924. Another 9/11 pattern. He was thought to be a beggar when he died. India, Persia, which is Iran and Japan, feature in works in his life. And then, of course, basically, that crucifixion is Bible prophecy. We'll get in quickly to a little bit about Snowden. There's a lot of stuff Alex Jones is coming up with that he's a double agent. He's going to cause World War III. You just can't give enough weapons to the rebels to start World War III. That's a complete misnomer. I'm very worried. I would say there's a good argument to say Alex Jones is a double agent because his family has CIA background. And part of what the administration wanted to do was labeling Snowden a traitor, going after him, demonizing him. He's a defector. He's not a hero, according to U.S. Republican Congressman for New York, Peter King, who is probably the real traitor. So I don't get into this stuff with demeaning him that much. It wouldn't surprise me they're using this to pacify us over the spying. The big part is they want to change the channel, because the real issue isn't arming the rebels and World War III. Even if we armed another country to a great extent, they're not big enough or strong enough. We could give them fighter planes. 50 fighter planes. They still couldn't start World War III. They don't have enough stuff. The Americans could shut it down in a couple hours. So that's impossible. It's a complete fabrication. And that's the scary part. Is Jonesy the wild card they use at the end to take us away from something when we get too close? The big story, of course, is the Benghazi Gate, killing SEAL Team 6, Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, the FBI agents getting killed, and then more importantly, Hastings getting killed. Michael Hastings wrote about how they used mind control techniques on American senators. Big story. 2 guys go to WikiLeaks. One gets killed, one takes over the news. I'm a big believer in Julian Assange isn't a leak, he's a sponge. He's to collect from the whistleblowers. Hours before his death, Hastings got in touch with WikiLeaks. Did they set him up for the kill? And most likely he was killed. The engine separated from the car, was blown high in the sky. Doesn't look good. There's all kinds of coded references here in even the article on Snowden. $15 an hour hotel, 6. His age, 30. 3 6s, 666. Time he gets on the plane at the Chinese airport, 11:04, 6. Time he lands in the Moscow airport, 5:15, 11. Another play on 9/11. He's 30 years old, could go to prison for 30 years, 33 degrees of Freemasonry. Takes 30 days for the GCHQ to hold their stolen material, a 3. So another 666. All the power numbers from the Illuminati are in the references to Snowden. The Twilight language doesn't lie. But the big one is they killed Hastings. Julian Assange has a background with the family. We discussed that on a previous show. It should be archived somewhere on my website, I hope. Maybe it goes back too far. The family was a cult that took children, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, to make them into doubles, to adopt a life sometime down the road in the future. When President Obama was in a beginning stage, Julian Assange was in Africa, his homeland, Kenya, filming. Didn't the president have a new name? Wasn't he a double to take over a role he was trained for from youth? Very, very suspicious. There was a big fight within WikiLeaks where there was a parting of the ways. Assange went his own way. Is he a leak? or is he what I believe, a sponge? Too many red flags about the guy. The whole story about the NSA spying was revealed in 2011 in a court case, Jewel versus the NSA. 3 real NSA guys sued them. Binney, Wibb, and Drake. Drake was charged, the other 2 were just under investigation. It's all old news. When they give us an old fish, it means they want to fry us. All this stuff's been out everywhere. So there's nothing new in these revelations, unless he had a wild card that we haven't heard of yet. But I think the guy with the real wild card was Hastings. He was killed. And Snowden's used to turn the channel, put up a new shadow on the wall in Plato's cave, so we forget about the other shadows that someone put up for a minute. Maybe they weren't shadows, maybe they were the truth, what really happened in Benghazi. Osama bin Laden was never in Abbottabad. SEAL Team 6 was killed for that. And infotainment, the big news media, can never tell you that, can never cover it, can never look into it. I know I've worked around a lot of those people in previous jobs, and they said I could never say what you say. That would be the end of me. The hook comes, you're fired. Because you can't tell them the truth. We can tell you the truth here at Conspiracy Cafe. Not a problem. Because the show's put up by you and me. It's our little deal. We change the paradigm. You change the paradigm by changing the channel, to Conspiracy Cafe, to pushing the donate button for your friend, that's what my name means anyway, George Freund, so that we don't have to walk down that dirty little hall that NASA has planned for us with their war document. It's to kill us all. Poison us with genetically modified foods, stuff in the air, chemicals in our body like fluoride, Fukushimas, little radiation burn here or there, to eliminate you from this dimension. But you can change all that. Stop looking at the shadows. Look at the real world, the real hard facts. And as we build momentum, it shifts and changes. There's a lot of them that spy on us, that are learning something. Other ones are crap in their drawers. But that's only because we're here. Keep us here, keep us healthy, keep us working for you, and we'll all survive. There isn't a them and us, there's only us. And we can win this very easily because we can see from the 4th dimension down. There's nothing they can do. All you got to do is change the channel, change the programming. Look at new shadows on the wall, because ours aren't shadows, it's real stuff. So thanks for coming out. We'll be back again next week. Same that time, same that channel. Good night.